Berzerk. First of all, a good excuse for me to test out recording Atari 2600 footage, and also just a damn fine game. It's also a very important game, and for many reasons. First and foremost, it was the game that ultimately ended up popularizing twin-stick shooters. I know what you're thinking, this game does not use twin sticks, what are you talking about? Well, this game was what inspired Eugene Jarvis to create Robotron 2084, which, while not the first twin-stick shooter out there, was the one that really popularized it and made it sort of a modern, consistently accepted concept in game design. This game is also quite famous for featuring digitized voice clips. At least the arcade version is. This particular version doesn't have that, but still, this game featured voice in a time where voice wasn't really a thing in video games. In fact, I'm fairly confident in my assertion it's the first game to feature digitized voice clips, usually trying to entice you to spend money on them, and as a gimmick, it worked quite well. And most importantly, this game is revolutionary and still important to this day for ultimately inspiring the song sequel to Pac-Man Fever, Goin' Berzerk. Yeah. Now the very deep and complex story that is Berzerk is you are the last human. Automatons have destroyed all of humanity and civilization, and you are running for your life, pursued by the endless horde of completely emotionless machines that are gunning you down, all while under the watchful eye of Evil Otto, the big boss of the robots, and a legitimately terrifying smiley face, both in terms of, well, that was why this character was inspired, was because of a character with a terrifying smiley face, but also just because of who he is as a character. And we'll talk about that. But this game is very well and true to its sensibilities in terms of concept. You are one human who is constantly on the run from robots, and you can fight them, sure, and that'll work for a while, sure, but they are robots, they are tireless, they have no stamina, and this game doesn't end until they happen to consume you. So you can fight for as long as you want, but until your stamina gives out, well, they're tireless and they're endless. And then of course there's Evil Otto, that horrifying smiley face of doom. Berzerk is a very, very pure experience. It's a run-and-gun shooter. The core concept is you start on any one square of a map, dropped in with randomized enemies, sometimes really on top of you, which makes things ridiculously stressful from the jump. Your job is to destroy as many robots as you can and leave. And I have to stress that you want to leave these screens as fast as possible, and the reason for this is simply this. The more robots you kill and the more time you take, the greater chance Evil Otto will show up. And Evil Otto is a pretty peculiar character because, in this particular version anyway, you can shoot him a few times and he'll die. But after a while he'll just laugh at you and say, enough of your shenanigans, God mode. And he will charge at you and he will not stop. And the thing about Evil Otto is, he likes to play with you a bit. Because when he shows up on screen, he'll be moving quite slow. If you happen to destroy all the robots on screen, suddenly he moves a lot faster. If you're moving on a horizontal axis, he moves as fast as you. So if you've got walls in your way, which will kill you if you touch them, he will probably catch up to you. And what makes him even more terrifying? If you move vertically, he moves twice as fast as you. Seriously, this smiley face is a complete bastard. But what's truly evil about Evil Otto? He's killed. Yeah, true story. He's killed a few times. Jeff Daly, he got 2 high scores on one Berzerk arcade machine, and then died of a heart attack. Peter Bukowski, same thing. Got some high scores, boom, dead of heart attack. And you know, some people say they died from too much joy. Having hit those high scores, they couldn't handle how amazing their life had suddenly become. But I know the truth. It's that damn smiley face. I'm onto you, Otto. I'm onto you. But gameplay-wise, aside from the horrifying curse that has claimed lives, that has surrounded sort of the giant ever-growing myth of Berzerk, it's still a really good game. It's a very pure experience in the sense that there's not much to it other than tactically figuring out when you need to leave a room so that you don't get jumped by the horrifying smiley face of death. But for the most part, it's very simple. The AI is incredibly dumb, but given the time, I kind of believe that. And I think that's part of the reason why touching walls kills you instantly, is just to sort of ramp up the challenge a little bit compared to, well, these kind of dumb AI enemies. But there's a little bit of variance in terms of the AI as well, because some will just stand there, some will start following you, others will shoot at you a few times. It's genuinely interesting to see how each enemy reacts, because they do react somewhat differently. And that feels pretty advanced for the time, as opposed to other games which, well, after a certain point, suddenly all the enemies are invisible because challenge, or we didn't know how to program a game properly. Basically, Berzerk is an excellent game in terms of gameplay alone, and that's good because that's really the reason why you'd want to come back to it, especially this particular version. Now, the presentation to Berzerk on the Atari 2600 is... I'm actually kind of impressed by it. It's the little things. Like, it does look like a very simple game, but if you look at your character and you try and move diagonally upwards in either angle, you'll have a different animation than just walking straight up. And your character will hold, like, their arm out to try and shoot and stuff. It's little things, and I only just noticed this after going back and playing it now, but I gotta say, kind of impressive. Even though the environments basically all look the same, because of course they do. I mean, you're very limited with what you can work with on the 2600, of course. And at least they try and change the enemy character colors a little bit to differentiate them, so there's that. And the audio design, well, it's... basically, you can hear the shots and you hear a staticky sound when you get electrified, and that's about it. This game is not exactly a breadwinner compared to the arcade Berzerk, which had, of course, digitized sound effects. Still, for an Atari 2600 game, it does basically what you'd expect it to do. Now, if you want a cartridge of Berzerk on the Atari 2600, it will cost you very, very little. Cheapest one I'm seeing is $5. You can also get this on a myriad of Atari 2600 compilation cartridges and discs, all of which are also pretty much ridiculously cheap. And I think you should, because Berzerk is not only an excellent game, and it's not only a very pure, well-executed game, but it's honestly one of the two best games on the Atari 2600. 3 if you want to count that weird sort of unlicensed Night Stalker knockoff that they ripped off from the Intellivision, but it plays better because of course it does, because, you know, it's not that horrible Intellivision controller, but this is easily one of the best Atari 2600 games, and it's still fun to go back and play today. I gotta say, I respect where this game came from. I respect that ripples in the games industry even today are felt because of this game's design sensibility, and I really, really respect Evil Otto, please don't kill me. Seriously. Dude, I had a robot fear when I was a kid. Don't bring that back, please. But Berzerk is an excellent game in terms of gameplay. It's fun to pick up and play. Yeah, it's not going to eat hours out of your life anymore, because very few Atari 2600 games will do that nowadays. But it's still fun to play. And I think that's still a huge compliment given how much we've advanced and how much our expectations have grown in terms of game design. And presentation, certainly. So you know what? I'm going to recommend Berzerk. And if you're going to go pick up a copy rocking the 2600, first of all, respect, mad respect, but also go grab Yar's Revenge. Because really it's those two. Those two are the best two. And you can thank me later.